made fun of him and told me to watch me in corner with his friends, but he got mad and did this.
Ever been in a situation where a little teasing spirals into a full-blown disaster? A situation whereby you did something wrong to a particular person, and they retaliated by making sure you absolutely regretted it. Have you ever been in a situation where the person sets a trap for you and carefully weaves a web of deceit for weeks just so you can absolutely ruin your relationship? Because if you've not been in a situation like that, you should thank your lucky stars. Why am I saying this? Because I have been, and I think it might just ruin my relationship. I think my relationship is done for, but I honestly don't want it to be so. My name is Rose, and I've got a story that'll make you think twice before poking fun at someone. I'm posting here because I want to rant, and also because any advice would be appreciated. I'm 26 years old, and my boyfriend Nathan is also 26. We met on Tinder, found out we went to the same college, clicked instantly, and soon found ourselves deep in a serious relationship. We have been dating for about 5 years now. I genuinely thought this was the person I would marry and spend the rest of my life with. Now, Nathan was a great guy, kind, caring, and always looking out for me. But one day I made a playful jab at him, calling him weak in a moment of jest. Little did I know that harmless comment would set off a chain reaction of revenge and deceit. Now, I know you might be wondering, why did you mock him? Honestly, I was partially being playful. And there was also the fact that Nathan had always been known as a bit of a simp. He always went out of his way to please me and make sure I was happy. This had even led to a few of our friends even playfully mocking me and calling him a simp. He didn't mind though, and would even joke along with them. I guess I always took Nathan's love and devotion for granted. He was like a rock in my life, always there to support me, always putting my needs before his own. It's easy to get comfortable in a relationship, isn't it? You start to believe that things will always be the same, that your partner will always be by your side no matter what. The day everything changed started off like any other. We were casually chatting, joking around about someone or something. I honestly don't recall the details. In the midst of our banter, I playfully teased Nathan, saying he should watch his back because I might just leave him for someone else. It was meant to be a lighthearted remark, a playful jab in the midst of our laughter. Nathan laughed and said I would never leave him, to which I then playfully said that I just might. I said he was weak and a bit of a simp, so he should probably watch me. It was all jokes, honestly, but Nathan's reaction caught me off guard. Instead of laughing it off, he fell silent. I could sense a shift in the air, a subtle tension that hadn't been there before. It was as if my words had struck a nerve and awakened something within him that he had kept hidden. Looking back now, I realize how insensitive my comment was. Nathan had always gone above and beyond to make me happy, to show me love in ways both big and small. Calling him weak and a simp in that moment was like dismissing everything he had ever done for me. It was a wake-up call, not just for him, but for me too. It made me realize the weight of my words and the impact they could have on our relationship. But little did I know this innocent banter would set off a series of events that would change things between us. After my playful banter with Nathan, things between us started feeling off. I noticed Nathan wasn't as protective as before, which was a big change because he used to always have my back, sometimes to the point of being overbearing. He'd ask about my day, check if I got home safe from work when he wasn't home, and just generally be attentive. But after that conversation, it was like a switch flipped. He stopped checking in as often, texts became fewer, and calls were more sporadic. It felt like he had withdrawn, leaving this gap between us. I tried to write it off as work stress or something temporary, but deep down I knew it was more than that. I started missing how he used to hold me close in crowds, making sure I felt safe. Now it was like he had lost that protective instinct. It left me feeling exposed, like a safety net had been pulled away. I couldn't help but wonder if my teasing had pushed him away, if I had somehow caused this shift in our relationship dynamics. I noticed that things had indeed changed between us, but I wasn't sure how to bridge that gap, or if it was even possible anymore. As Nathan and I lived together, our dynamic was such that he took on most of the household chores despite earning significantly more than me. He enjoyed cooking, cleaning, and doing the dishes, especially since he knew how much I disliked those tasks. It was a routine we had settled into, and it worked well for us. However, after that playful conversation, I noticed a shift in Nathan's behavior around the house. He stopped taking the initiative to do the chores he used to handle with joy. Cooking became less frequent, cleaning sessions were no longer as thorough, and the pile of dishes in the sink started to grow. At first, I brushed it off, thinking he might be busy or preoccupied with work. But as days turned into weeks, it became evident that something had changed. Nathan seemed less invested in our home life, almost as if he had withdrawn from the little things that used to bring us joy. I tried to pick up the slack, but it wasn't the same. I missed the days when Nathan would surprise me with a delicious dinner or clean the apartment just to see me smile. It felt like a part of our connection had faded, leaving a void in our shared responsibilities and, more importantly, in our relationship. At first, I must admit, I felt a sense of relief when Nathan became less overbearing and didn't fuss over every detail of my whereabouts. It was liberating to have the freedom to go out with my friends without constantly updating him or worrying about his reactions. I could plan spontaneous weekend getaways or spend the night with my friends without feeling suffocated by messages or calls from Nathan. It was like a breath of fresh air to have that space and independence. I could focus on myself more, pursue my hobbies, and reconnect with friends without feeling guilty or obligated to constantly check in with Nathan. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I appreciated the newfound freedom in our relationship. However, as time went on, I began to realize that this newfound freedom came at a cost. The lack of communication and engagement from Nathan started to feel like indifference. I missed the times when he would show concern or take an interest in my plans. The absence of his messages or calls, while I initially liked that, now felt like a void in our connection. I started to question whether this shift in our dynamic was healthy for our relationship. While I enjoyed the independence, I also longed for the closeness and intimacy that had once defined our bond. As Nathan's behavior continued to change, I started noticing the absence of those little gestures that used to mean so much to me. He stopped opening the car door for me, something he always did without fail before. It may seem like a small thing, but those acts of chivalry were symbols of his care and attention. Moreover, Nathan's attitude towards finances shifted as well. He earned significantly more than I did, and he used to take care of our financial needs without any complaints. If I needed money for shopping or any other expenses, he would readily provide it without hesitation. It was a comfortable arrangement that worked well for us. However, after what happened, Nathan's generosity seemed to drop. He became more frugal with his money, and I found myself having to ask for financial support, which I had never had to do before. It created this sense of unease and dependency that I wasn't accustomed to. I felt like I had lost not just his emotional support, but also the financial security that his income provided. The lack of these small but meaningful gestures and financial support added to the growing distance between us. Well, as the distance between Nathan and me grew, I found myself seeking validation and attention elsewhere. It started innocently enough, just casual conversations and harmless flirting with people I met in social settings or online. These interactions provided a temporary distraction from the emptiness I felt in my relationship with Nathan. Then as time went on, I noticed that I was seeking these interactions more frequently. The attention and compliments I received from others filled a void that was growing deeper within me. It was as if I craved that sense of being desired and appreciated, something that seemed to be missing in my relationship with Nathan. And I know you might be thinking, why didn't you just try to talk to Nathan well when I tried to talk to Nathan about what I was feeling? He brushed off my concerns, and he would even gaslight me into thinking I was overthinking or projecting my insecurities onto our relationship. He would invalidate my feelings, make me doubt myself, and even question whether I was being irrational. This only made things worse. I felt unheard and misunderstood, and it pushed me further towards seeking validation outside of my relationship. As time continued to pass, the distance between Nathan and me only seemed to widen. Despite my efforts to mend our relationship, nothing seemed to work. Nathan had closed himself off emotionally, and no matter how hard I tried to communicate or reconnect, it felt like hitting a wall. The frustration and loneliness I felt reached a breaking point, and as you might have already guessed, it led to a moment of weakness where my harmless flirting crossed a line into full-on cheating. It was a mistake I deeply regretted, and I knew it was wrong. It happened only once, but the guilt still weighs heavily on me. What makes matters worse is that I didn't confess to Nathan about my infidelity. I was ashamed and afraid of his reaction. I knew it would devastate him, and I couldn't bear to see the pain in his eyes. So I hid it. The realization of how far apart Nathan and I had drifted hit me like a ton of bricks when I found out about his huge promotion and the house he bought without informing me. It was a devastating blow, and the way I found out made it even more painful. I still remember the shock and embarrassment I felt when our mutual friends casually mentioned Nathan's promotion and his new house in conversation. I was taken aback, not just by the news itself, but by the fact that Nathan hadn't deemed it necessary to share such significant milestones with me, his partner. What made it sting even more was the fact that we had always talked about getting a house together. It was a dream we both shared, and I had imagined us taking that step as a couple. The realization that Nathan had gone ahead and made such a major decision without involving me felt like a betrayal of our shared dreams and aspirations. So yeah, I decided to confront Nathan, and it was a turning point that shattered any remaining illusions I had about our relationship. I realized that he had been pushing me away and gaslighting me, making me doubt my own feelings and perceptions. Confronting him was supposed to be a moment of clarity, a chance for us to address our issues and work towards a solution. However, I'm sure you've already guessed that it didn't go as I imagined. Nathan's response was unexpected and hurtful. He accused me of disrespecting and insulting him, and he used that as justification for his changed behavior. He argued that he had always been the one putting in the effort, and that he saw no point in continuing a relationship where his efforts were not appreciated. What cut deepest was when Nathan revealed that he knew about my infidelity. It was like a dagger to my heart, realizing that he had found out about my mistake and had been holding it against me. He was very angry and then he stormed off. Now I feel like I'm at a crossroads. I feel like I'm losing or have already lost the relationship that once meant everything to me. Yes, I made a mistake, but it was born out of feeling neglected and unappreciated. Nathan may have been a simp in some ways, but he was a good simp, and I didn't want him to stop caring or making efforts for our relationship. So here I am reaching out to Reddit for advice. What should I do? Is there any way to salvage what's left of our relationship? Is there any way to get Nathan to forgive me? I just want my old Nathan back. Update. Hello Reddit. It's been a while since my first post, and I've received a lot of requests for an update, so here I am. I want to address some of the comments and DMs I received after my previous post. Firstly, I want to acknowledge the hateful comments and DMs I received. They were hurtful, and I understand that my actions have consequences. A lot of people said I was trying to narrate the story in a way that painted Nathan as the villain, but no, I'm not trying to paint Nathan as the villain or absolve myself of responsibility. I know that I made a mistake, and I take full accountability for it. Many of you suggested couples therapy and individual therapy, and I appreciate those suggestions. It's something I've been considering, as I realize the need to work on myself and our relationship. Regarding financial dependence, I agree that it was not wise of me to rely entirely on Nathan. I work in a field that honestly doesn't pay well, and Nathan, being more financially stable, took on more responsibilities. It became a pattern, and I got accustomed to it. However, I should have been more responsible and independent financially. Nathan had just always been more financially smart, and with him being the man in the relationship, I just left things up to him. Some comments mentioned that cheating is a deal breaker, and while I understand that perspective, every relationship is unique. Cheating was a mistake on my part, and I regret it deeply. However, I believe in forgiveness and second chances, especially if there's genuine love and commitment. I believe Nathan will forgive me. We've been together for a very long time. He knows that me cheating was a mistake, and I know he will get over it. Ultimately, I'm here seeking advice and guidance. I want to know if there's a way to rebuild trust and salvage what's left of our relationship. I'm aware that Nathan may not forgive me easily, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make amends and work towards a better future together. It's crazy how some folks on social media jump to conclusions about me just from a few posts. They're calling me a narcissist, unfeeling, and entitled without really knowing me or my story. They act like they've got it all figured out, saying I'll see things differently when Nathan leaves me. But relationships are way more complicated than that. You can't judge someone's life from a few online updates on posts. I have texted Nathan and he says he is on his way home. We are probably going to talk and I will update on that. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I feel it's important to keep you updated, so here's the latest. Nathan returned home and we had a much-needed conversation. I suggested couples therapy as a way to work through our issues, but Nathan was leaning towards breaking up. I had to plead with him not to give up on us just yet and to give therapy a chance. We agreed that if therapy didn't help, we would then consider breaking up. Despite the challenges, I still love Nathan and want to salvage our relationship, so I'm cautiously optimistic. Plus, there's the practical aspect. I rely on him for a lot of things. We found a therapist with excellent reviews and booked our first session. I'll keep you posted on how it goes. Update. Hey Reddit, I'm back with another update. Despite the negativity I faced on here, like I've gotten lots of DMs and comments, I believe it's important to keep you all informed. Our first therapy session was a bit rocky. Nathan had been keeping to himself a lot, and despite my efforts to engage him with special nights out or deep conversations, he still remained distant and reserved. We even had an argument during this time, which was about money. I asked him for some financial help, which he declined. For our first session, we discussed various issues and challenges. I brought up Nathan's reluctance to share money and his emotional distance. I also mentioned how sensitive he seemed about a playful comment I made. However, the therapist pointed out that Nathan's feelings were valid, and it was okay for him to express emotions like anyone else. I'll keep you all updated on how things progress from here. We went through a few more therapy sessions, and it became clear that things weren't improving as we had hoped. Nathan expressed his thoughts, and he told me that he had deeply considered our relationship but couldn't find it in himself to forgive me. He opened up about how he felt he had always been the one putting in significant effort into our relationship, shouldering responsibilities and trying to make me happy. He said that it was very hurtful for me to mock him as weak, and that me calling him a simp struck a chord. Nathan also did admit that he has purposely tried to gaslight me because he was so hurt. During our last session, Nathan then finally came clean. He wanted to break up. He mentioned that he had been working on the house he bought, and now that it was ready, he planned to move in there. To be honest, hearing that news left me in a panic. I relied on Nathan for so much, financially and emotionally. Without his support, I wouldn't be able to afford the lease on my own. The rent was simply too high. Moving back in with my parents wasn't an option either, given how crowded their house already was with my siblings and their families. Plus, I didn't really have any friend that would let me move in. I was now feeling desperate. I pleaded with Nathan to reconsider, to give our relationship a few more chances through therapy. I knew deep down that losing him would drastically change my life, and I wasn't sure how I would navigate through everything ahead without his presence and support. There was no hiding it. I was broke, and without Nathan, I would definitely fall. As much as I pleaded and begged, Nathan remained stubborn in his decision to break up. He expressed remorse but explained that he needed to move forward with his life without me. In the following days, he came over to pack his belongings. I tried everything to stop him, from emotional appeals to physically attempting to restrain him, but I guess that only seemed to anger him further. What made matters worse was that I had already spent my last paycheck, and so I was in a financial bind until the next month. With desperation starting to set in, I reached out to our mutual friends for help. I told them that Nathan was leaving me but didn't disclose the full truth about the cheating, knowing they would likely blame me if they knew. I asked them to talk to Nathan, hoping they could convince him to reconsider. However, instead of mediating, our friends bombarded Nathan with calls and messages, pushing him until he revealed the truth about my infidelity. That must have changed their perception of the situation entirely because they turned against me. They criticized me for not being honest with them and said it was disgusting that I had omitted such crucial information intentionally. The betrayal I felt from both Nathan's departure and our friends' reaction was overwhelming. I felt like I was running out of options, so I turned to our parents for help. I begged my parents to intervene and speak to Nathan and help convince him to reconsider, or at least provide me with some financial support to cover the rent and bills until I could figure things out. I also reached out to Nathan's parents, hoping they would understand and help mediate the situation. However, things didn't go as planned. I'm not sure what Nathan told them, but both sets of parents turned against me. Nathan's parents, along with mine, seemed to side with him completely. They were disappointed in me and echoed the sentiment that I was to blame for the situation. It was honestly very disheartening to see them take Nathan's side and not offer any support or understanding. After trying everything, I reached out to Nathan directly, hoping he'd understand. But he accused me of trying to ruin his reputation and said any sympathy he had was gone. Feeling desperate, I even went to Nathan's workplace to talk, but he threatened a restraining order instead. It's crazy that after we've been together for so long, he's serious about ending things completely. Now I'm stuck. Friends and family turned against me. Nathan won't help, and I'm lost on what to do next. It's tough and uncertain, and I'm really struggling to figure it out. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. This is probably my last update. Things have been really tough, and the negative comments and messages have been getting to me. People are calling me crazy and delusional and said I was stuck in my head. A lot of people even expressed sympathy and pity for Nathan more than me, and said that they would probably have gone ahead to file a restraining order if they had an ex like me. Honestly, I was hoping for some understanding or support, but it's clear that's not happening. It feels like everyone has turned their backs on me, and I'm in a really tough spot. Next month's rent is a big question mark. I might not be able to afford it with how expensive things are here in my state, and the fact that there's a housing crisis. And finding a roommate hasn't been easy. If I can find someone to share expenses with, maybe I won't have to move out right away. But so far, no luck. Thanks to those who followed my story and offered advice. It's been a wild ride, and I appreciate the support. My girlfriend cheated on me with my boss, and instead of feeling remorseful over the whole ordeal, she blamed it on my inability to make something for myself. Can you guys imagine? She tried to gaslight me. Well, she had always done that. Blamed me for everything that affected us. I should have seen that as a red flag. Most people saw that as a red flag. But maybe I always thought she would change the R. It was coming from a good place in her heart. Stupid, right? Yeah, that's what I was when I found out that she was sneaking around with my boss. Like, you can imagine the look on my face at that very moment. The girl I had put my soul and heart into pleasing, and the man I looked up to and was trying to be like having an affair together. I was stupefied, trying to find my anger somewhere. I wanted it so badly, the anger, but all I could be was shocked. Still shocked as I write down this experience. I guess I should have suspected when she began comparing every single thing I did to my boss. Everything I was not to him. Even outside in public spaces, she found it funny to make the center of the joke in front of our friends. It was demeaning, and my friends thought so too, whenever we communicated on the group chat. They just couldn't say it in front of her because they didn't want to disrespect me. They were majorly my friends and were stunned at how the girlfriend I came to love wasn't even the least bit supportive towards my work. My life was pathetic, and my girlfriend made sure I never forgot it. There was a particular instance when we had been invited to one of my friend's birthday parties. Somehow the talk of work had come up, and you all needed to see how the sneer on my girlfriend's face became evident. Everyone was just celebrating milestones they had achieved, just normal chit-chat between friends, and it turned into a competition for me with my girlfriend there. As everyone was commenting on their achievements, I grew smaller and smaller as the sneer on her face grew bigger. And as you've guessed, she let me have it as soon as we were out of the party. She had already been dropping some side comments at the party, but the full force of her blunt remarks came to play once we got home. The comparison never stopped, and my friends began to question if there was something going on that I wasn't aware of. Most of them were sold on the idea that my girlfriend's love for my boss wasn't ordinary, and that something could be going on. But foolish old me dismissed their thoughts. I mean, she was my girlfriend and someone I had plans of marrying. There was no way she could do me dirty like that after how far we've come. Well, I thought wrong. Before I move in deeper to this mess of an experience, my name is Adam, and I'm 25 years old, and my girlfriend's name is Ella, and she's 24, just a year younger than me. We met at a college party organized by the frat brothers and found out we were both juniors. That is, we were in our third year of college and were under the same school. We hit it off, and I quickly fell for her sense of humor. After 2 months of getting to know her, I asked her to go out with me. That's when we began dating, and everything had been beautiful throughout college. She was with me always. We were the sweet couple everyone knew and wanted to be like in college. We attended events together, including seminars our school held, and I asked her to move in with me after a year of dating. I was in love with her then. I now realized that I had made a mistake. Love was for fools, because why else would someone who I loved and who claimed to love me too do me this dirty? Come to think of it, she hadn't even told me she had loved me in a while. We've been dating for over 4 years now, and like I had said earlier, I had planned to propose to her before she started to show her true colors. But cheating with my boss? I had never seen that coming. If the future me had come to tell me this before I caught her in the act, I wouldn't have believed. I would have laughed and told future me to go eat grass or something untoward. That's how much I loved my girlfriend. I always believed and trusted her with blind faith. She could do no wrong in my eyes. I even cut off some people in my life, people I've been tight with even before my college days, people I called my family. I dropped them all for her because I thought she was my person. My fellow Redditors, you couldn't spell foolish without somehow spelling my name. I was indeed foolish. As I pointed out earlier, I started becoming suspicious of my girlfriend having an affair with my boss immediately my friends pointed it out. I mean, everything became increasingly suspicious. My boss had been asking of her before on a daily basis, but as I started becoming suspicious, it was now as if he was asking to rub it in my face that, "Oh mate, I'm sharing your girlfriend with you." Like there was a funny game they were playing in my face. Of course, I know you all are thinking how weird it is for your boss to be asking of your girlfriend in the first place, but I hadn't thought anything was weird about it. I really was a wimp. Well, they had met at our office annual party. I should have suspected from that night because once we had gotten back home from the party, she just wouldn't shut up about him. I had introduced them at the office party, and it's now the dirty eyes my boss had been giving my girlfriend were playing in my mind. I hadn't known it then. I became suspicious of everything now. Whenever she compared me, the nagging thought slammed into my head. How did I find out she was cheating on me? Well, that was easy. All it took was just me messing up at work. One mess up that set me back a promotion, or maybe it had been a plan between them, but I would never know. However, the mess up at work started the chain of events that led to my girlfriend cheating on me with my boss. By the time the signs started showing clearly to me, I was already suspecting that there was something weird going on, but this mess up helped me confirm it. I had come home from work and told her how the promotions team decided I wasn't going to go one step higher because there was a mix-up in my accounts. I had been expecting the promotion since I hit 2 years with my company. I was planning a big party to celebrate the promotion. I had told my girlfriend how much the promotion meant to me, and she seemed happy for me that I was getting it. Or that's probably what I thought, because she didn't seem happy for me when I came home from work without the promotion. That was the day I heard the nastiest things coming out from my girlfriend's mouth. I had never felt so small like how I felt that day. Then the comparisons began almost immediately. Talmaboot, if I was as smart as my boss, I would probably be leading my own company and not working for someone else. That I couldn't even get my accounts straight, so I might never run a company one day. Don't get me wrong, I loved my job. I might say I loved my boss, even platonically. I believed I mentioned somewhere earlier that I wanted to be like him and run my own company. But at the very moment, I hated everything about my job and my life. That's when I decided that was enough. I decided I wasn't going to be thrown to the criticism wolf, my girlfriend. I had always supported her, everything she had aimed for. I always tried as much as possible to be there for her. Half of my salary went to her tuition because she was studying for her master's. I provided, I loved, and I supported. But what did I get in return? Her disrespect. The audacity of that woman. Well, I was done being a coddled wimp. I had gone to bed boiling that night because my hard work and sweat was all dashed till the next promotional offer showed up. I didn't know when that opportunity was going to come up again, and that made me madder. If you thought I was angry about my girlfriend not supporting me, then you're half wrong. I loved someone fully, but once I detached, I was gone. And that's exactly what happened that night. I had confirmed that something was worth suspecting between her and my boss, and now I just needed to lay a trap. A trap was laid. Our annual office party was in a week, and I decided to clear out all the doubts in my head that I wasn't being paranoid. Mind you, she had proceeded to start acting strange after that night. Coming home late, texting until the late night hours, I had felt she knew our relationship was on shaky grounds. I just felt stupid that I hadn't realized it since, so my plan was to humiliate the two of them. But I needed to catch them together and clear out all doubts that she wasn't cheating. I decided to clear up my doubts while waiting for an opportunity to catch her with my boss. I planned a day of pampering to celebrate her getting her master's degree. Just a simple day of shopping and then dinner that night. There was this YSL store where my boss always shopped for his outfits, and with our annual office party coming up, I planned that by some stroke of luck he'll show up. Guess what? He did. He showed up while we were mid-shopping. My girl was in the changing room trying on an outfit, and my boss just popped up staring down at me with a smirk. My girlfriend used the opportunity to come out from the changing room with her new dress on, and my fellow Redditors, you all needed to be there to witness the way their eyes didn't leave each other. It was like I was a side piece, something the dust had brought in. I walked up to the cashier to pay once I had enough, and you guys won't believe what happened next. My boss handed in his card to the cashier and said it was on the house. He had insulted me in front of my girl, who by the way was grinning and smirking like a Cheshire cat. There was no bigger humiliation than that, and I couldn't refuse him because I wasn't quite ready to let go of my job yet. Not until I had paid back what they handed to me, and I trusted that in good time I would. We left the clothing store after declining to have lunch with my boss. Well, I declined. My girlfriend was still tongue-tied, and frankly, I had no idea what she saw in him. It definitely couldn't be his physical appearance because I was topping the charts where he was concerned. Then it definitely was the money and power of being a boss. That's the appeal my girlfriend wanted, and I couldn't even get a promotion. She was a gold digger, true and true. I just wished I had noticed it earlier. I probably would have still respected my boss and loved my job. She had poisoned my mind. In fact, she had probably poisoned his too. Well, I didn't care. Like calls to like, doesn't it? After the whole shopping fiasco, of which I was still seething, I took her to dinner in one of the fanciest restaurants in Florida. Note, I was seething because I hadn't yet found a way to out them or make them pay for the humiliation, not because of the girl that sat opposite me and had a dinner conversation with her phone through the entire night. At this point, I was ready to call it quits, to just throw everything away and accuse her of rubbing bodies with my boss behind my back, but I held myself back. One, because I didn't have enough evidence to back my claim, and two, she would laugh. She would laugh at my foolishness because I didn't have enough evidence. So I had to endure the massively boring dinner and wonder how we had gotten here. Had she always been this disdainful? When had we get here? I didn't have the answer to all the questions my head turned up, my fellow Redditors. Remember that opportunity I had talked about? Well, it came when she decided to leave her phone to go use the restroom. Her phone pinged with a text as I sighted her opening the door to the restroom, and sure enough, she had received a text from my boss. His name was Angelo, and she had his name saved with various heart emojis. I really didn't know what more was an obvious sign than this. I decided to do the ego check thing most men do and sent her a text from my phone and my name popped up. My government name, lol. I dropped back her phone and smiled to myself. Well, my doubt had been cleared ultimately. They were sneaking around for sure. Now I just had to catch them, and my office's annual party was my best shot. My office's annual party came quickly, and I was so ready. Towards the end of the party, my girlfriend disappeared as I had banked on her doing. The side eyes my boss and her had been throwing at each other all night was enough indication. So when they disappeared together, I knew something was going to go down. So once they disappeared, I got into action. I tapped on my glass lightly to get everyone's attention in the hall and indicated it was time for the vote of thanks speech. Of course, my boss wasn't with us at the moment, and that meant people began looking for him. That day, I felt happy. I joined them in the search. In fact, I had led the search. My first guess was my boss's office. And oh my, were they so predictable. I had thought they were smart given that I had looked up to my boss once upon a time, but it seemed love and lust made people do stupid things. My opinion, by the way. And what do you know, they forgot to lock the door too. Couldn't believe I once found the girl that was in front of me to be my person. Couldn't also believe I once looked up to the man staring at me with incredulous shock. There was a heavy gasp as other people walked into the office after me. I raised up my phone and started recording them as they hurriedly tried to dress, prompting them to smile for the camera lol. It was all weird after that. Weird for them because of the glaring eyes they were getting and the murmurs. I dumped my girlfriend then and there and went home after the party. Of course, as I had stated earlier, she didn't let it rest and tried to gaslight me. My ex, as I would now call her, followed me back to my house, shouting in my ear as I tried to get in through the door. She didn't for once believe her cheating was her fault. There was nothing that wasn't thrown in my face on the night I dumped her. She started from how it was my fault. I brought her to my office party and introduced her to my boss. She continued with if I'd had at least some semblance of power, she wouldn't have been attracted to my boss in the first place. Unable to bear any of her guilt tripping, I helped her pack and threw her things outside. Can you imagine the little witch thought I was gullible to fall for her gaslighting and manipulation? Because that's what she switched to when she realized I was being serious about kicking her out. Her smart mouth wasn't so smart anymore as she begged me that she didn't have any family in the city to go stay with. I didn't give a fudge about that. I was just happy that I had finally come to my senses, but I wasn't done with my humiliation plan. I hadn't even started. My ex continued begging that night, and I told her to go and meet the man she had let share her bed, then shut the door in her face. That was oddly satisfying, my fellow Redditors. The look on her face as I slammed it into her face, but it wasn't enough for my hurt ego. The next morning, I walked into the office to discover I had been fired. I laughed through the morning. It seemed my ex had taken my advice and ratted me out to him. Well, I didn't leave without giving my boss what I thought of him. And a stroke of luck was on my side that morning as I discovered my boss was in some kind of meeting with people termed the higher-ups. Like my boss wasn't the only one that called the shots in how the office was run. He answered to people above him. Nothing else could have made my day at the time than discovering the power my ex found appealing was momentary, and I was going to strip him of that little power. My fellow Redditors, revenge is a dish best served cold, right? I don't agree with that saying. It's best served hot, in my opinion. I waited until the meeting was finished and angled my laptop on the receptionist's desk so it faced the door where their meeting was held. Yes, that's right. I had done that so the higher-ups could see what the person they put in charge was using his office to do. They came out one by one, and their eyes immediately went to the video playing on the laptop and their mouths formed grim lines. According to company laws, my boss wasn't going to be fired, but he was definitely going to get a query and maybe even a demotion. I left and put them behind me even though my revenge hadn't been completely served, but I knew an opportunity was going to present itself. And it did 1 year later. I started working with the rival of my previous company as one of their financial advisors. There I was appreciated and had somehow almost merrily forgotten about the ordeal with my ex and my former boss. Well, almost being the key word here, until my ex showed up in my office. If you're wondering if I had seen that coming, trust me when I say I had not. Sure, my plan was to go rub it into her face when I had finally gotten successful. Show her what she had left instead of supporting. Show her what she had missed. But having her come to me? Epic stuff. She needed advice on a financial venture she wanted to embark on, and she had heard I was supposedly the best at the moment. Those were the words she had used. I know you guys would think this was my moment to shut her down and eat into her. No, it wasn't my moment yet as much as I had wanted it to be. I offered her my advice on what she wanted to know and she left. But it seemed she was so delusional that she thought I had fallen for her once that meant I could still fall for her again. My ex became a leech using financial advices as a cover-up. Can you imagine the witch? Did she think I was her puppet? I know once again that you guys would have expected me to shut her down surely this time, but I kept up the charade. I decided to drop the bomb one day on her and ask her how about the man she had exchanged saliva with while she was still dating me, and that shut her down. She stopped coming to my office. It only shut her down for a week though as she started up again next week, her questions becoming more and more suspicious. However, anytime I asked about my former boss, she disappeared again. She always did this when we were together. Anytime it was time to take responsibility for something, she found a way to evade it. Every time, and it was coming to play even after a year of us not being together. I remembered a time back in college when this bad habit of hers came into play. She had a project she was supposed to do work on with her group members and submit before the end of the semester. Her group members had come to me complaining back then that she was the reason why the project was being set back. I didn't see my girlfriend for 2 whole days. She knew she had been wrong, but she would rather disappear than admit it. As you can guess, she popped back up when the project had already been fixed up by her colleagues and took all the glory. Of course, I should have seen how bad her character was from the start of our relationship, but I had been love-struck like I had mentioned numerous times before. I'm sure almost half of you reading this have done and overlooked so much for that sake of love. That didn't make me a wimp, or even if it did, I had risen above that and now my eyes had been cleared to how I was being used. Another instance of one of her habits in addition to the other ones I've narrated was also during college. My girl back then had a habit of backstabbing people, including her friends. That was why she didn't have anyone to go to when I had kicked her out. However, back then I had thought it was just her being overly sensitive to people. I thought maybe people didn't understand her, so that's why she was quick to lose friends, but as I narrate this, I quickly realized she had been a backstabber. She had told me once that her only friend had betrayed her, but I had run into her only friend at a coffee shop back then. In fact, she had approached me and had a lot of things to say about my ex. How my ex made her take the blame for something my ex had obviously caused. The details are all a blur in my head, but I was only realizing it after she had done that same to me. Everything I had overlooked was suddenly replaying in my head and my resolve strengthened. I had protected her, provided for her, and even supported her, but she had deemed me her play tool. And even a year later, she still thought she could play games with me, going off and on and thinking I was her dog who was loyal. Well, she had something coming for her. As was true to her habit, she showed up again after her disappearing act and started acting all lovey with me in front of my colleagues. One day she brought cake from the bakery nearby and shared it with my colleagues, who threw catcalls to us, and I was disgusted. The following days she continued her charade, possibly trying to woo me and my colleagues by being sweet, an emotion she wasn't capable of. Her charade continued for quite some time while I planned my line of attack. My luck came through for me when my friend gave me a call and said he had spotted my ex and my former boss together in a restaurant. According to him, my boss hadn't looked so put together as he usually was, and my ex seemed to be shouting at him over money issues. Well, that solved the financial advice issue. That's why she had been coming to me. She wanted money. Remember my plan to completely humiliate her, Redditors? The opportunity had planted itself. The next time she came to my office, I threw money on the table and told her to disappear from my life. And of course, you can guess she took it. But once a leech, always a leech. She showed up the next day asking for more money, and I had never felt more disgusted than I did at the moment. I hated her. I hated the fact that I had once been in love with this person. After a week of throwing money at my ex's face, she came to me with a proposition. When I thought there was no more low she could go, Redditors, my ex went lower. She came to me to advise her on how to embezzle money. My ex and my former boss were planning to embezzle money from the company I had worked before. Apparently, my boss had fallen so low that he had to resort to stealing. After the whole fiasco, he had been demoted to my position, and I couldn't believe. My dish had been served a lull, and it had been served hot because even till now they were still digging their own graves. They were wrecked and still trying to wreck themselves even more. I told her I couldn't help her, but she could keep me updated. I could use the updates to set them up with the police and the IRS, and I did. Over time, she kept updating me of the progress and telling me how they planned to transfer the money to an unregistered account under her grandmother's name. She was so stupid and blabbed a lot about her progress, like as if she was looking down on me. She, the smart one, and the one who was able to run an embezzlement fraud, and me, the dog who she thought was loyal to her. What she didn't know was that she was setting up her trap because I was recording everything she was saying, making sure I don't implicate myself. After 2 weeks of our conversation, my ex barged into my office with a Birkin bag on her arm and looking all glammed up. She came by to gloat that her first heist had gone successfully, and an opportunist would always be one. It seemed she was planning on running another heist. I was ever ready to listen to her plans, biding my time for karma to catch up. I was a very patient man. However, I was a patient man with revenge on my mind. It seemed her second heist hadn't gone as well because she came back to my office and looked like she was in trouble. She ranted that people were after her and poking into her bank accounts and private informations. I had made that anonymous tip to the IRS that there was an illegal sum of money entering an unregistered account. But that didn't seem to deter her. I doubt you guys could have guessed what she wanted to do next. Plan another fraud? Nope. My money-blinded ex decided to throw a party. I wasn't even surprised because finally I knew what she was. Her character shone through at that very moment. I guess it had always shown through since, but like I said, my eyes were now clearly open. And I knew if let free, she would turn another man into her victim if she didn't learn her lesson. I pitied my boss even because he was under the same trap I had been, doing her will because he wanted to please her. I knew what that was like. He had probably been misled to believe she was this sweet soul like I had been. I was sure in his eyes she could do no wrong. Well, I hoped he realized soon. I was once like him. Or maybe the two of them deserved each other. A pair of bad habits and vile behaviors was what they were. Well, my ex invited me to the party, to rub the success of their relationship in my face, of course. But she didn't know what was coming for her. I know you all would be wondering what's wrong with me and why I was this calm with someone who had done me dirty with my boss. Why was I this calm, you may be wondering. That's because I felt pity for them. And of course, I would never miss a party celebrating the downfall of people who had done me bad. They just didn't know their party was going to take a terrible turn, and I wanted to be there for the ride. In the spirit of serving revenge, I made another anonymous call to the IRS again, and this time submitted all our recorded conversation as evidence. I got to their condo to find the party well on the way, flashy lights and everything that screamed, "I just got rich and I want to throw my money around." A very predictable behavior. I kept to myself, biding my time for the real entertainment to start. It didn't take long for it to start, though, as my ex began to give her speech of how she had come from nothing. Lol, the irony. I knew that she had meant that to be a smack on my face. The police badged in at that moment and demanded for who went by my ex's name. And of course her guest wasted no time in pointing to her. As the police took her and my former boss out, I raised my glass to her in salute. My part had been done. My fellow Redditors, you know what they say about those who rose so fast to success that they didn't merit. They tended to drag everyone around them down when they were going down themselves. That's what my ex tried to do. Anytime I thought I was finally rid of her, the leech found some way to make me a part of her problem. I couldn't stop questioning how I had gotten tangled up with her in the first place. What had I seen in her? Was I really lacking in love that I had fallen for that walking red flag? I had never truly even known her. We had dated for 4 years, but as her character came forth after our breakup, I started questioning my sanity. I hadn't known anything about her. Even the little I knew had been enough to turn present-day me the other direction. So why had I stuck with her? I refused to believe I was that gullible, my fellow Redditors. But there was nothing else that could explain why. I know all these seem like a stuff for the books, but it happened to me. I didn't even know what to term it. It was just so surreal. But I came out of it. I was called to the police station because my ex had named me as one of the accomplices in helping her embezzle the funds. According to her, my former boss was the one who came up with the plan, and I provided insight on how to go about it while she was just roped into it through blackmail. Can you believe that? Blackmail? Her claim was that I had blackmailed her into doing my bidding. Apparently, the blackmail material I had was the video of them cheating together, and that I had planned on submitting it to her university to get her fired, so she had no option but to go along with her plans. But the problem with people who were panicking and new to crime? They made mistakes and didn't cover their tracks. It was very easy to clear my name as I didn't have anything to do with the fraud in the first place. I revealed I was the one that made the anonymous tip and played the recording of her making her plans for the police. My fellow Redditors, you needed to witness the shock on her face. It was epic, the start of her downfall. Then, given her character, she switched her story immediately. It was my former boss that had made her do it. She confessed she loved him and wanted to do anything to please him, so it was a given that she followed him to partake in the fraud. When she saw the police wasn't buying her story, my ex became bitter and began ratting out terrible things in front of everyone, one to my former boss. A leopard could never hide its spots. Like I said, what I felt for my former boss was pity, as he was now on the receiving end, just like I had been once upon time. Guilt tripped and blamed instead of being supported because they had planned it both together. Well, the police let me go after a round of investigations that cleared my name up and I was free to go. My ex, however, had burst into a tantrum, crying and raising her voice to whoever would listen that she was innocent, even though the police had found the unregistered account in her grandmother's name. She was truly delusional. Well, long story short, my former boss got the major slap on the wrist while my ex was let off with a minor charge. I don't know how she manipulated her way out of that, but I'm more than glad that she was out of my life. I was very glad that she was out of my life. And unlike how she usually pops up out of nowhere, I don't think she was going to be coming anywhere near me for at least a long time. And if she does, the restriction order I had out for her would definitely be a stopping factor. My ex was finally well and truly dealt with. My fellow Redditors, I hope we've all learned from my experience because I know I learned a lot from my ex and my former boss. I wish what I had narrated above was a lore, but it had happened real life to me. You never know the true character of a person until you and the person are in a bad situation. That's when the person's true character shows. I had learned that the hard way. That's why I am narrating my experience on this platform. People who aren't usually your family only look out for themselves. The world we live in is harsh, and I hope no one gets to experience what I had in the hands of my ex. I wasn't coddled. I just overlooked a lot because I thought I had loved her once upon a time. Now I had learned. Well, until next time, Redditors, stay chilling.